Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, welcome to another review, but this time it's a little different. I have a laundry list of albums that I want to review, but quite frankly, I can't get through all of them, especially this week since a lot of great music has been released this week. I don't think I can get through all these. So, it's time to make this segment come out of retirement. It's time for album review. It's time for album review catch up. I will go over 5 albums that I want to talk about, but I don't have enough time to. They don't really mean a lot to me, but enough to make me, slightly invested. I will talk about them briefly and then I'll give them a score, and all of the albums will be listed down below, and they're also somewhat in the title. And if you want more information, find another review on YouTube, because this isn't going to be very informative. This is just going to be my quick opinion, and that's it. So let's start off with the first album, and that is Chance the Rapper's The Big Day. Can you believe Chance the Rapper has yet to release a full-length album? And this was prior to The Big Day. He's released mixtape after mixtape after mixtape, and this is his first studio album. But well, let me be honest. I didn't know what to feel about this album. I didn't know how to feel about this album as well. I really didn't hate it as much as some other people did. I didn't love it, but after re-listening to it, it doesn't really age all that well. A lot of these sounds really feel like they're going to be dated within the next 2 to 3 years. While Chance the Rapper does have a knack for production, I think this album is way too cluttered with features and confusing lyrics, very weird metaphors, and a lot of weird lyrics. I'll repeat that, just very weird lyrics in general. It's unfortunate because this is not terrible of an album and there are good tracks on here, but this album suffers from bloated album syndrome. 22 tracks, it's over an hour of material, and it does get boring quite fast. A lot of the songs on here don't sound necessarily bad, it's just the things that are around these songs make the song in general just very arduous to get to. Chance the Rapper seemed like a promising act in the beginning of the decade, but now he just... When your album sounds like a various artist compilation with you being the main feature of every single track on here, that's bad. This seems like a various artist compilation with the amount of features on here. Very few tracks on this album only feature Chance the Rapper. Hopefully his next full-length album won't be as bad as this. It isn't the worst album I have heard, though. There are definitely worse albums than this. But overall, I'll give this album a C-. Next up is the latest album from Taylor Swift, titled Lover, and wow, her songwriting on this album is very mature. Unfortunately, the singles leading up to this album weren't. Me and You Need to Calm Down were, quite frankly, the 2 of the worst tracks on this album. However, a lot of maturity on this album is shown. I think she's grown into herself. A lot of what's on this album sounds like what you would hear from Red or 1989, and I like that era of Taylor Swift. But Lover is certainly a growth in Taylor Swift, but the one downfall to this album is the length. This is her longest album. It's 18 tracks long. There are a good amount of songs that could have been just cut from the album. A lot of the songs on this album are interesting, they're different for Taylor, and yes, they are in her wheelhouse. It's just a bloated album. A good amount of songs on here I don't necessarily enjoy, and again, they could be cut from the album. But overall, this is probably one of her better albums, but not her best, unfortunately. Yeah. I'm giving this album a C+. The next album I want to talk about is the latest album from Sleater-Kinney, titled The Sinner Won't Hold. This is an album that's somewhat interesting in the band's discography because this is the last album to feature the drummer Janet Wise, if I pronounce that correctly. And I see why. She cited creative differences within the band, and yeah, the drumming on this album, for the most part, super rudimentary, super simplistic, but the guitar work on this album I think is very nice. I like the vocals on a lot of the tracks as well, but yeah, it's very simplistic for a Sleater-Kinney album. It's very different creatively for the band, and I understand why fans are not going to like it as much, but I like it. I thought I was going to hate it, or at least not like it as much as I do, but man, it to me it's interesting. I like the kind of appeal that Sleater-Kinney is trying to pull on this album. I like a lot of the songs that have a little more radio-oriented style to them. I think the album itself has more of an appeal to a mainstream audience than their previous albums. But if you think that made Sleater-Kinney a unique band, I understand why you don't like this album as much. It's definitely a creative difference from the rest of their discography, but nevertheless, I think it's, again, a bittersweet album for the band because it's their last with Janet. Yeah, but overall, I'll give it a B. The next album we're going to be talking about is Bon Iver's I. This is another experimental project. He has this one and 22 A Million, which was kind of the start of the kind of experimentalness that he puts into his albums nowadays. That's just my opinion. It just is a little disappointing. A lot of these songs feel half-baked. A lot of these songs don't feel finished. They just kind of end with no conclusion. If Bon Iver can pull through with an album that's actually experimental, or at least in the realm of experimentation that this album or 22 A Million does, then I think they can pull through with a great album. But it just seems like they're not putting in a good amount of work. I could be wrong about that. Maybe they wanted it to sound like this, but if they really did, gosh, I'm just not the fan. I'm just not the fan. I just think it's a little bit of a disappointment in my opinion. There are a good amount of tracks on here that I enjoy, but quite frankly, I think the lyrics are alright, nothing crazy. The instrumentation is nice, the production is Yeah, it's just a disappointment, again, from Bon Iver. I'll give this album a B-. The last album that I want to talk about is the latest album from Glass Beach, their debut album, somewhat eponymous. It's titled the first Glass Beach album, and a lot of people are raving about this album. A lot of people are finding it interesting, unique. It's very true about that. They are interesting, they are unique of a band, but I find myself in this weird kind of place with them. Yes, this is an interesting album. It's a unique album. It's art rock inspired, indie-tronica, as well as a little bit of psychedelics as well. It seems very naive. It seems very beginner. I feel like this is just a stepping stone in the band's discography, and they can just get better with their next release. In my opinion, it isn't as great as I think it can be, and a couple times here and there, I find myself to be just a little bored, a little uninterested. But I think the band does have a good amount of talent. I think they can go forward with this album, and I think certainly they can pull off a good album. But this right here is just the stepping stone, in my opinion. I think this is just the beginning of something to come. But I will praise it for what it is. It's unique, it's different. I like the breath of fresh air that this band delivers on this album. But nevertheless, I think that they can do more. I'll give this album a B-. And that's going to wrap up the album review catch-up. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on these albums down below. Let me know what albums you want me to review next. That is it. I have a laundry list of albums that I'll get to. I apologize. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, share, do whatever you want, and I'll see you in the next video. Album reviews. Until next time.